So I've been looking at the new One D&D rule set, and there's a particular change to what is a fundamental core part of the game that I think is going to struggle to be backwards compatible for many DMs, including myself. Um, and that is the rolls, the check, the D20, what a 1 and a 20 mean. And essentially, looking at the PDF, there are three main changes to this process. The first one is critical hits now seem like they only apply to weapons and unarmed strikes. Kind of gonna gloss over that because I don't know, maybe they've balanced spells in some other way, or maybe they've deemed spells kind of overpowered, which some of them are. Um, so that one I'm okay to leave for now. But where it gets interesting is that a 1 is now an auto fail on any check, and a 20 is an auto success on any check. So the rules as written in 5e would say that a 20 on a skill check does not mean you automatically succeed. So the most outlandish examples that people can come up with, which are daft because a GM would jump in and say, no, you can't do that, would be a bard saying, I seduce a dragon, that old joke. I rolled a d20, I get it. Obviously, that is a ridiculous example where you would hope the GM would say, no, there's no check here, don't do that. However, what this does do is it removes the notion of degrees of success, which is something I use a lot in my game, where a player will say, I want to do something interesting, I want to do something outside the box. And I will ask them, how? How does this work for your character? What will your character, with their traits, with their abilities, with their history, whatever, be able to do to get towards this goal? And then I will make them roll whatever check it needs to be. And if they get a natural 20, doesn't necessarily mean they get the exact thing they've asked for in the exact way they asked for it. A good example of a real thing that happened in one of my games was a level 4, I think, gnome said he wanted to talk to a guard and convince the guard to let him, so a crown guard of royalty, and convince that guard to let him talk to royalty, basically. He wanted a meeting with royalty. So I asked, you're a level 4 gnome, dude. What have you got to do with this royal family? Why would they let you talk to them? And he came up with a reasonable argument, which is that his brother is nobility for gnomish civilization and a leader of a massive trade organization that could supply that royalty with weapons for a war that they're in. So I let him roll. He rolled a natural 20. However, he did not get the thing that he wanted, which was a meeting with royalty. Instead, he got a meeting with a trade representative of the crown. So this change would mean that I would have to flat out say no, which would discourage him from thinking of things and would also tell the other players, hey, there are definitive no's in this. This is no longer a can I think of something interesting? This is a binary yes or no. Or I would let him roll, he would get a natural 20, and then I would have to give him what he wanted. As he asked for it, he would get a meeting with a member of the royal family, which has, I think, possibly a worse effect of diminishing your world. So the world that you have built, the rules that you have built, suddenly no longer really apply to your characters because they can do weird stuff. So I think that is a very real argument against this rule set versus the outlandish things of I seduce a dragon, where you would say, well, no, that's not going to happen. And I think I will be ignoring this new rule because I prefer to have degrees of success. In terms of failure, I mean, I wouldn't make my players roll for something where they couldn't fail it. So I kind of agree with that one, and I've kind of always been treating a natural one as a failure. Um, I don't necessarily make a natural one a comically bad failure. Sometimes I just, it depends on the check. If it's a perception check for, or well, an investigation check, um, no, they don't find the thing. There's no need to have them trip over and injure themselves finding the thing, because it's not really interesting. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's going to take some GM common sense to determine when a roll is necessary. So I wouldn't make my player roll a perception check if they were looking for something they're stood in front of. I would say you're stood in front of it, you see it. But I think this rule also adds a lot of extra finessing to a GM if they're going to use it to think, what is the outcome if they roll a natural 20 on this? Should I let them roll for this? And how that can damage their world. Because with the degrees of success, you can still kind of manage your world. You can say, hey, well done. You did the impossible, which is a level 4 gnome rogue managed to convince a royal guard to let them have a meeting with a trade representative for the crown. That's pretty good work. Whereas auto succeeding on a natural 20 for whatever outlandish thing that guy decides to come up with, or any of your players decide to come up with, I think that's dangerous ground to tread on. So yeah, I personally will be ignoring these and continuing with the way I do rolls, which my players seem to like. I don't know. If anybody watches this, let me know what your thoughts are.